Every book has a moment before the page. A decision, a risk, a story worth telling. This is Authors After Action. Conversations with authors about the journey, the work, and the lessons learned along the way.
Welcome, everybody, to Authors After Action. I'm your host, Donald Dunn, and today we have got Lisa Kaufman. She is a filmmaker and storyteller whose passion for cinema is rooted in both creative vision and real industry experience. Festival founder who connects with filmmakers from around the world, learning from diverse cultures and stories. Discovered remarkable family history from the Revolutionary War, heroes to the founding of Southampton by accident while reading a novel. Or by writing a novel, I apologize. Known for a calming voice, engaging presence, and a unique, positive story driven away from communication. Welcome, Miss Lisa. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you. Yeah,
So
and I don't know
why
pardon me?
Oh, no,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
I
Go
didn't
ahead.
interrupt you. There
That's
might
okay.
be a little bit of a delay, I think.
Yeah, there is. That's okay. What were you saying?
You was mentioning the history, probably when you was talking about the history, some of my history, probably the most, I kind of fell into publishing early and working with a New York Times bestselling author. And that's really what got me, I've written all my life, but that's what really helped me structureize and find my passions and learn a lot from the people that worked professionally in the business. But by accident, just last year, I found out that Funk and Wagnalls publishing house, the co-founder, Isaac Kaufman Funk, is my cousin. And I found that out by accident when I was doing my first novel. And so I have found out a lot of accidental, really cool history stuff. But that right there meant it was almost like finding a piece of myself, because as I looked into Isaac Kaufman Funk and his history and the publishing and his father and how it all started, and actually a lot of his writings, I've read them and we are a lot alike. It's like our writing style and everything. So it's super interesting especially to find out. I was inspired by some things that made me look into a local library that's called Wagnalls, which is the other partner of Funk and Wagnalls, that his daughter had started. And that's what made me investigate. And when I saw his picture, I noticed his middle name was Kaufman, and mine's spelled with a C and his is K. And I saw his picture and I'm like, he looks like my uncle's. And then I could even see my own trait. And I said, that Kaufman is the way I had found out in our genealogy that we spell it. It just got changed somewhere in my branch of the family that separated. And his stayed the same. So anyway, it's really amazing how you end up doing, you really find out that you're connected to your ancestors, and things that you love doing, you'll find out maybe way back. Yeah. It's in your heritage of what you love to do, as you doing what you're doing, you probably find that it's in your history somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know if any of the creative stuff, I think music, if you go back to my family, you'll find a lot of musicians. I was not given that gift. I'm about tone deaf and fumbly with fingers. So the guitar that's in the background over there is still waiting for me to figure it out. But
hey, it's never too late.
No, but I do enjoy it. And that is in my, there's a lot of family members that are big into that. But I think the creativeness comes through our line, and I absolutely love podcasting and writing and just expressing myself and not really caring what other people think. It's for me. I enjoy it. So,
Well, you can't. Yeah, you got to be thick-skinned, and if you love it, just go for it. It's going to resonate with someone.
yeah.
I mean, everybody can't please everybody.
Yep. And I'm too old to try. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I never was one that tried to please everybody anyway. So,
me neither. Me neither. So let's dive a little bit into you're into movies and
yes,
filmmaking
yes.
and writing. Where does that line connect? Because they're not far off from each other.
No, they're not. I as far as writing, I'm also a singer-songwriter. So, as far as writing, I started doing that very young. Writing poetry, writing short stories, and writing songs. And I grew up in a musically inclined family, and so I was around music a lot, equipment, sound equipment. So I learned all that really early in life, and then when and I just continued doing that as I got into my adult life as hobbies. And then in my latter 20s, when the internet, it was probably in the early 90s that I started, because I am a singer-songwriter, I was getting involved with I wanted a website for my music. And then I found out that software, anything computer related, technical, I found out that was all very technical. And I kind of knew that already because at a young age about my the music equipment. I would always help my mom and my sisters set up equipment when they performed and stuff. So, and then I would do solos when I was young, when I would travel with them sometimes. But so when I started, I kind of just fell into it. I started doing a little bit of web development, made an office, and I kind of had a really knack for it. And somebody referred, and this New York Times bestselling author called me and said, "Hey, I've heard," when I was talking to someone about a campaign that I was doing, he's like, "You're really good at this." And he goes, "I talk to a lot of people. If I ever talk to someone that needs some of your work, professionalism." And, I'm like, wow, okay, great, and because I just had an knack for it. And then a New York Times bestselling author contacted me, and he said, "I'm looking for this and I'm looking for that. And can you help me with this campaign? I want to do an email campaign." And one thing led to another. And then I started developing his website. And then I got very heavily involved because I already wrote. So him being an author and a New York Times bestselling one, kind of, he educated me a lot about writing. And then a lot of his, and then he had a one particular book that he's known for, that he does a lot of series from, that got a movie deal pretty quickly, just after the first book. So that tied me into the movie end of it, because everything that I worked with him for over 10 years. So, and then that led me to work for a publishing company. So it found me really, I think that as I did it as a hobby, and then it found me to help take me to the professional end of the business. And then I found out really quick when I started doing film editing, he would say, "I need this done," or whatever. And then I just bought it. I'm a program guru. So film editing was cake for me. I was just felt like I had done it before, because as a writer, I see everything, since I've been little, I see everything like a film in my head. So when I'm writing, I'll hear my music and I hear it all at the same time. So
Yeah.
when I'm writing, I already know what it's going to look like visually. So when I started working with him with that, it was just like doing something I felt like I'd already done, you know. And
Yeah.
what I loved about film was that I could put everything that I know how to do into it. So I do my own scoring, you know, I write my own scripts and I direct and do the cinematography and then sit down and do the editing. So it was just love right there. I was just like, you know, if my idea is to have larger projects where other people are involved, but most of my projects have been small in my film work. And, you know, a thing called budget, you know, films are very expensive. So as everybody knows, and even an independent small film, you know, you have to get funding for it. So I really, last year, I've done a lot of short films and things like that, but, and then I started deciding to start writing novels. And my first novel was last year, because how I looked at it, until I get that film and do that film, then I'm putting small films in a book. And I had to kind of tackle that a little bit, because it was always overwhelming to do a novel for me in the past. So I was, another author she's highly successful, and she said, you know, take it bird by bird. And there's a book called Bird by Bird. And Anne Lamott wrote it. And it kind of gives you tips on how to tackle that. And mine was, it just, I try to think too much all at once. And so I just learned to do it little by little, just sit down. And now that I've mastered that, I'm on my second novel, but that's how I fell into doing it. And to the scale that I am now.
Well, let's talk about that first novel. When you first started, right? There's so many people that when they write, they first start, they don't know what they don't know. And I know I ran into that because the editing process and all that, I had no clue.
Yeah.
I tell everybody, you know, my first book, if I knew I was going to have to reread it so many times, I probably would have never wrote it. You know, it can be tough, especially when you're dealing with sensitive stuff and sensitive topics. And it is difficult. What were some of the pitfalls that you found when you first started writing that you said, oh, I'm not doing it this way next time?
Boy, I hate to sound, it's like, I really feel like in my case, it's like I found another home. It's like I thought, why did I wait so long? And what I wish I hadn't have done before sitting down and doing it is overthink it to the degree that Bird by Bird really, I didn't even have to read that entire book. I only had to read like the first chapter. And I'm like, I get this already. I'm just over, you know, when you're writing a film script or whatever, you're just keeping it to a degree. And really, I have to say, my books are that way. So my books are really, you know, they're not really, I'm thinking my second one's probably going to be a little bigger than this one, but it's larger than, you know, it's considered a novel, but it's on the smaller scale of novel.
This episode is brought to you by Barracks Media, where your online presence becomes a real asset. Barracks Media builds professional websites for podcasters, creators, authors, and small businesses who are ready to be taken seriously. Not templates, not cookie-cutter pages, real platforms built to grow with you. Whether you're launching a podcast, promoting a book, or building a brand, your website should work as hard as you do. We design sites that convert listeners into followers and followers into clients. Visit barracksmedia.com and turn your idea into a home on the web.
It's the minimum. And I think the next one will be bigger because I paid attention to that too much. I was like, okay, how many pages do I have in this That's probably what I'm not going to do the next time. Because when I started writing the second one, I didn't even think it. And I'm like, oh, whoa, I got that much already. So it might be considerably a longer book, probably.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do focus on that.
Yeah. You can't kind of get off of like you said, you don't know yet. This is your first experience of it. So you're just paying attention to every word at the end of each chapter, even before I'm getting to the end. How many words do I have, Yeah. And then I did start getting off of that and just not worrying about too short of chapters or too long of chapters, and just go with it and don't try to wrap it up too soon, or don't, So that's probably what I did learn from the first. I feel like when I started.
I think for the young authors out there, that delay is getting us. I think for that,
that's all right.
I think those young authors out there that are learning, the big thing to take from what you're saying is if you start Googling and searching structure of a book, right, it's going to give you this baseline of, a novel should have X number of words and your chapters should be this flow and so forth. And that's just a guideline, right? That is just a way to identify the difference between a novel, a short story, and nonfiction, and autobiographies, and all that type of stuff, right?
Right.
The one thing you don't want to do is take that to the point where you say, okay, I'm now getting to 30,000 words. I need to cut this chapter short and start focusing on how do I transition. And what you're going to hurt your story at that point, because now it becomes more flow structured than authentic. And that really does hurt that reader and author relationship.
Yeah, I can't say that I ever did that, but I did just stop and would say, oh, how, and just look how, many, and I found that I've not even wanted to do that with the second one. So I think it was more getting the feel. I think we do that to get the feel. You don't really need to do that after the first one. It's a very quick learning thing. I mean, it's amazing, that isn't it? After the first one, that you feel like, hey, I'm really at it now. I feel like that I could just pop this out. If I wasn't as busy, and that's what I'm looking forward to, of really just doing this. I do have another job that I work that I'm looking to retire from and just do this 100%. And I'm so looking forward to that. So and I'll do a lot more writing.
Yeah. I think also the other part is to not force it, right? Part of what makes a great book and a great author is the ability to be creative, and your daily life and your daily routine can really bleed through your creativity. And like you said, you go to work and you have a bad day, and then you come home and say, okay, well, now I got to bang out 2 more chapters. Well, those 2 chapters are going to feel exactly like that they were forced, and you have to do it.
I don't even think I've never been able to do that. I'm very, very creative in all aspects, even my office job. People, it's kind of, the people I work with, my whole space is very creative looking, in a not so creative industry as far as what I do. But I find ways of being creative with everything I do. So I'm just not the kind of artist that will try to push anything, and for some reason, part of my creativity is, impulse or impromptu. I mean, I when I feel it, I just go with it, and I start and I just start typing. And a lot of times I don't even really, I insert characters and I'm like, I wonder why this one's coming in. And then later it wraps around. So it's kind of a you feel like you're tapping into something, don't you?
Yeah.
Feel that way?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel like that anything creative like that, you're tapping into some collective thing that's there, and it's really awesome to tap into it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think, a lot of creativity comes deeper from your soul and your conscious. And that is the cool part about it, especially with fiction books, because, almost every author I talk to that writes fiction, the cool part about that is they have an outline. They know where they want the story to go, but that the middle part, the highways that's going to get them there, they have no clue how it's going to happen.
No.
And
it's
just
cool to just like start writing. Yeah.
It's
I love it when these characters come out of nowhere, and the first time those were the first learning experiences with my first novel, is I'm like, oh, where am I going with this? And then I just kind of forgot about that person for a minute. And then a couple chapters in, there she comes again.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Absolutely. And
that was yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead. So how do your personal stories influence the films you create and support? Has the writing of the book kind of weaved its way into some of the film projects that you've been working on with as well?
Yeah, they all. There isn't a project that I don't write that I don't already know. I already know how I'll film it, because as I mentioned, and I don't know if it's that way for you, but it's always been that way for me since I've been young. So I already even know some music, or I've written music to things that even for my first novel, I already, in certain areas when I was writing, I heard instrumental or whatever. And then sometimes I'll get inspired. And when I take a break from the book, I go to my music equipment and start working on what I'm hearing in my mind for a film. So yeah. Once I found film and found that niche from working with the author, I just knew that was the outlet. That was the outlet for my writing. So even my novels, they're written for film. Everything I do is for film. My songs are for film. They're stories. They're not. I don't write I'm not a pop artist, or I'm not an entertainer or singer songwriter. It's all stories and film related. So
similar to like a soundtrack.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess at the end of the day, film is where it's at for me. It is. But now I do love the process of writing. But it is, and to put it into film is the whole idea for me. But I think that I did find that I could be happy just writing novels if I start writing a lot of novels to say every one of those could be a film, I'd be fine, because I kind of write like a film. So my books are kind of like scripts, really, but just in like a novel form.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask is there's such a big difference. And my last guest, we got on this topic, and it really has kind of stuck with me. The scripts for, film scripts for films are different than books. And I found that screenplay is so much harder to write than it is the
really?
formatting. Yeah, I do. I
started there. So maybe to me, it was easy because because it's just so defined out, and it's how I already saw everything in my head anyway. So I think once you would write one, then you'd be like, oh wow, this is like really easy. If you write a novel, trust me, you can write a screenplay. But do you have a vision in your mind? Does things reel in your mind like a film, kind of?
I think
Do you see
no,
any visuals at all?
no. I think for me,
Okay.
because my topic that I write a lot about mental health, so I really stay on the nonfiction side of things.
Oh, okay.
My first book was about my times in the military. I wrote one fiction book, and the whole idea behind it was still about mental health. It was about how what depression and PTSD would look like if it was a real demon, and I went that route for that book, and then I went right back to I wrote a book called Preparing Your Mind for Life and Battle, and all of it is more mental health. So for me, I guess if I was to think of my books as a screenplay, it would end up like a 8th grade health ed class.
Yeah. For documentary, it would be in the form of a documentary. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Which, is, I feel like that, I always, when some people tell me that, since you're a writer, I've talked to people that they say, oh, I can write song lyrics, but I don't hear the music. And I would always say, are you sure you're not, or you're not learning how to listen to what you're hearing? So I would almost bet that even a documentary, or it doesn't have to be fiction for things to reel in your mind. And I know it's probably for someone that tapped into that very young, it may have been just the way my creative is, but I feel like visually, we all see things in our mind while we're talking.
Yes.
And so if you tap into that a little more, I think it's one of the reasons why I can write virtually about anything. The biggest thing, I always was confused when I would talk to other writers, and then I would say, well, write me this, or I did this magazine one time. I'm like, okay, then I need you to write me this really quick. Oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to write that. I'd be like, why couldn't you write that? And then she's like, well, I can't just write about anything. And I'd be like, you can't write about anything? So I'm very impromptu. Someone could say, write me a story about this, and and I could do it. So I feel like I trained myself early. I think I'm actually doing a workshop for impromptu writing, and I include meditation and everything because I'm remembering what I did as a child that made me be able to tap into that. Don't think that's a special gift I've got. I think that I just learned really early on in my life how to tap into this flow. So, and a teacher, my English teacher, she would give us these assignments of stories to tell stories. And she's like, where do you come up with this stuff? And I'm like, and I would just be super creative and just throw in things. And I just loved it. And that's when I really saw that I liked writing, that was in high school. I had written in small stories in different ways until that class. And she kind of made me realize and made me have confidence in my writing. She says, yeah, that's super creative. I don't know where you come up with that. But
this show is part of the Barracks Media Network, built by veterans, creators, and storytellers who believe stories change lives. Barracks Media produces podcasts, books, and digital content that amplify voices worth hearing. We help creators launch, grow, and monetize their message without losing their soul. If you've got a story in you, or a show in your head, Go to barracksmedia.com and start building something that lasts.
So anyway, I think it just is super helpful for any writer to tap into that. I think that everybody's got it, and so it could help you with a screenplay, or it could help you kind of say, okay, because a movie is about phases of getting, there's phases. So where a book, you can go into a lot more detail that the film is just not going to go into.
Right.
You have to explain things in a book, in a novel, where you have a film, you're seeing it. So you're taking out a lot of that information that you're writing about. So it condenses the book, the screenplay considerably by removing all the detailed of telling what the scene looks like and what the person's wearing and how they're feeling and the expressions on their face. You're talking about all that in the novel, where in a screenplay you're not. So that's probably the only thing mainly that you need to you put that in the notes in the script, but you don't. And then you've got your speaking, your script actually for each person. But in between that is where you kind of set up the scene. You let it know, what's going on in the room, what's happening, and I'm real big about, with my films, improv. So I write a script, but I like my actors to say it in the way they would say it. So I don't lean on people I want people to feel like they're really watching something that they shouldn't probably be watching, that they're spying on a really personal conversation. And so I'm really into improv and my script, that makes script writing even a lot easier because, and makes directing much easier.
Yeah.
But, you do have a structure still, but you're like telling them to say it in the way that they would say it. And it changes it a lot.
You're just not handicapping the actor with word choice and so forth. But in your screenplay, you're still giving them the presence of the feeling, whether this should be anger or whether this should be, comedy or however, even when you start dipping a little bit of that mix with like, being, what's the word, sarcastic, where it's not anger, but you're saying something to be kind of smart assy, and then you let that artist or the actor come up with how would I say that if I wanted to be sarcastic or smart assy to another person,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing to write a script and you're thinking, okay, this is how I want this to be. And then I give that to the person and then they're like, okay, I said, now you say this the way you want. And then it conveyed differently. And I liked it better than how I was going, that I saw that in my mind.
Right.
There were some, maybe if I didn't, I'd be like, maybe still say that, but sometimes you got to coax it a little bit, but most of the time not. Even a song that I wrote for a film that was actually being sung in the film, she heard me sing it, and then and I pretty much in my mind thought, oh well, she'll, I want her to do some of her individual, and she completely took that song to much better. I don't even like myself singing it, and hearing her sing that song, she took it to places that I did not take it, and which surprised me because, usually that's not the case for the person who writes it, but in that case, so it's really amazing I think that when you're working in a project like that and a team of people, collectively, what starts happening on a film is amazing. I mean, there are times when you're shooting I remember one particular scene was this one film was really meant a lot to me. About all of my films do, but this was about Anne Frank, and I'd written a script that I thought it was just her and Peter Van Pels, and that's all the film's about. It's just about their friendship and how two young people tried to pretend this wasn't happening and tried to live their life. And I wrote it in a sense of what that would be like for kids to be in that situation. And I had that broken out in scenes, but I was just shooting, and they were super passionate about the project. So, and I just kept rolling. I literally felt like I was in that room with them. I mean, it was like I saw Anne Frank and Peter Van Pels when they were doing that. And it was super, I was like almost crying filming. I mean, I just thought, and I just couldn't even stop, and I just kept letting it roll. And then I didn't know, because I really wanted to move and have different angles, but I just felt like something really special happened there. So I said, you know what, I'll work with that in editing. I'm not going to reshoot it. And I ended up cutting it, doing different things within the editing to make it look like that the camera was moving when it wasn't. But yeah, sometimes you just allow that special thing that happens in writing and filming, in any art, to have a set mind on what you think's going to happen, or set mind, like you was mentioning about writing a book and thinking, oh, well, I need to have this many words in this chapter, or I wanted to do this, or there's going to be something magical that happens. With your writing, fiction or nonfiction.
I agree, and that's the magic of putting, I call it your special sauce. That's where that sauce comes from, is being authentic with yourself and allowing things to build. You talked about doing some workshops, and I like to always close with some tidbits that will help, young people that are coming up, either to be authors or filmmakers or whatever. In your workshops that you do, what are some of the things that you like to make sure that a new person that's looking at writing their first book or writing their first screenplay, what are some of the things you would like for them to take from your classes?
Really to go with your instincts on what you're going to write. When you're wanting to figure out what you want to write about, there's key things that you should ask yourself. And one of them is, what's the passion? Once you figure out what you want to write about, and what is it about this person that you want to write about? What is special about that person that's going to make this really stand out? And then I try to get them, there's a meditation before it to get them in a really, really relaxed state of mind.
Right.
And then asking these questions to yourself, and whatever comes to your mind and surfaces, to try to go with that, and then go to the next would be, what is going to make it special? How do you see, what story do you want to tell that about this person, that you think that you want to tell it, why you want to tell it? What's your passion behind it? That
Right.
right there. And if there is no passion behind it, start all over again. So, because if you don't have passion for anything you're writing for, I think a lot of times people try too much to go with a topic that is hot right now. You know, you go to editors or you go to people that can is going to shop your book for you or whatever when you're sending them maybe what you have. Oh, well, this is not a hot topic. You need to write on this or whatever. You just need to write about whatever is in here that you
Yep.
feel. And to get to that, it takes a little bit of just relaxation. And so I kind of hit on that on the workshop, that
Yeah.
just get calm in a calm, relaxing place and ask yourself these questions. And if anything doesn't resonate, then just that comes off the top of your head. It needs to come from the surface, not a lot of thought. And but passion is the number one. And if you don't feel passionate about it,
you hit that right on the spot, because a lot of podcasters, I've been podcasting now for 4 or 5 years, and I get people that come to me all the time and they say, man, I really want to start a podcast, but I don't know what topic it is or how do I go about this? And the first thing that I tell them is, do not pay attention to what is currently the big thing out there, the latest fad. Pick something that you are passionate about. And the reason why I say that is because that's what's going to get you through all the ups and downs. When you first start a podcast and you go and you look at your stats, you're like, great, 3 people downloaded my show today. Awesome. That doesn't become as important when you enjoy what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you're not fully invested in what your topic is, those stats will end your show, because you'll get tired of it and you're like, why am I even doing this? I don't even like what I'm talking about. And evidently neither does anybody.
It's true though.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to come across to your audience, and it's just,
Yes.
there's nothing more. I mean, it is very, for people to see someone passionate about something, it helps inspire other people to find their passion, or to, I've heard people say, I don't have a passion. I don't know what my passion is. I always say, there's something that you're good at. There's something that you really enjoy doing that you've either somehow wasn't encouraged, or I refuse to believe that someone, when I hear people saying that to me, and and I never accept their answer, I'm like, then it's time to figure it out, because you've got something hidden in here.
Yep.
I never like, people like, oh, you're so gifted, or oh, you're such. And I'm like, we all have something. Everybody has something. There's not just these special people out here. We're all special. We all have something unique within us that we're supposed to do, that it's part of your purpose.
Yep. Well, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Meditation will find that answer. It really will. This last year or so, I have started meditating, and man, I'm going to tell you, even when you do it and you don't get that profound epiphany of, oh, that is why, or whatever, you still feel good after doing it, and you still be able to get some of that tension off of you and some of that negative energy off of you. But one of those times that you meditate, that aha moment, or that little spark is going to shine through, and you will see it. And so you're putting them right on the right spot. The right direction is meditate on it, think about it, and get in contact with the inner you, and allow all this noise that's out here to go away, and you will absolutely.
Yes, I I've done it since I've been a child. I grew up in the country. I had three older sisters, but I was a lot younger and I was by myself a lot. So I was a real outdoorsy person and had a lot of animals and things. And I found ways in nature that I would meditate, and I didn't even really realize it till I got older. I'm like, oh, I've done this all my life. But this morning I got to work and on this, and this is a good way to close because we was talking about meditation. You know how your desktop, there'll be like different scenic nature scenes that will switch, and there was these lavenders, all this beautiful lavender that was, I have a really big screen on my computer at work. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I could have fell into it. I mean, it just was so relaxing. And I just took that moment and I just took a deep breath and I just looked at that. And the second next breath I took, I kid you not, I could smell lavender. And I'm like, and I can't say that has ever happened to me. And I'm like, I just smelled lavender. But that is true how our senses are. We really can. And I've done it in a small way before, but I'm going to here to tell you that lavender was really strong. And it was just the way I took that deep breath, and I was really just taking that full moment. And it don't even have to be anything like a lot of people think, oh no, I have to for 30 minutes sit and be quiet. No.
Yeah.
If it's just a minute of your day or 5 minutes, it doesn't have to be 30 minutes. You know, a lot of people have their idea of what they think meditation is. You know, there is no set way to do it. Relax and just listen to your thoughts and just put yourself at ease. And the deep breathing is super essential.
Absolutely.
And breathe out. Yeah.
Yep. Getting back down to the basics. That's exactly what it's about.
It is. And I mean, it's how you can get centered and grounded, and and any art that you do, writing, singing, you know, anything, you can just come out of that and just feel so much more focused in anything that you're doing for your day. So yes, I love it.
I agree. Well, Ms. Lisa, can you tell everybody where can they buy your books and learn more about your films and learn more about your upcoming projects?
Okay. Well, my personal website's Lisa, Leisa .B as in boy, I-Z. And my, I probably, all of it could link in. So my film festival website is lunalumenfilmfest.com, and there really you could get to any of mine. And my books are on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. And my first book is the only one that's up right now. It's called Sable's Secrets. And it's got what's kind of neat, because I was inspired to, a lot of inspiration in this comes from Houdini's in it. So there, I do historic writing. So there'll be true things in my books, but fiction off of it. And I also put Funk and Wagnalls in there. So there's a lot of really neat things in the book that's relative to me. And Sable is a fictional person, but I do have Conan Doyle, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is in it. And I really didn't know I was going to put him in. He came out of nowhere. I wasn't planning to put him in. And then I found out later that him and Houdini actually knew each other. And I've always thought he was a rather unique person. So anyway, Sable's Secrets you can get on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and find out anything about me from the film festival. And that way I like to bring people through the film festival because I'm also going to be doing an OTT platform that will be putting a lot of independent films out, just like Netflix, but in unique niche films, just independent. So
Okay.
that way you can learn everything about me through that website. So.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure we get all these links and everything in the description down there
Okay,
for
thank you.
people to
Appreciate
follow them and everything. I ask that all of you guys
That'd be
that watch the show, make sure you go over and pick up her book, leave a review. I stress that. Leave a review. You do
Yes,
not know
please.
how much that it helps. It tremendously helps. And make sure you follow her on her websites and look out for any of the new films that are coming out and her new OTT project. I think everybody will enjoy that as well. So
Yes,
I hope
thank you.
all of you guys have a great day. Miss Lisa, I appreciate you coming on the show and helping all of these young authors and people that are interested in the film industry as well. So thank you very much.
Okay.
You've been listening to Authors After Action, a podcast from the Barracks Media Network. Thanks to our guest for sharing their story, and thank you for listening. You can explore more conversations like this across the Barracks Media Network. We'll see you next time.